These are my concessions.
Welcome back to Popcorn Poppin. I am your host,
Anthony!
and I just want to talk about The Mandalorian! Season 3, Episode 8, whatever the finale was.
Warning!
This will actually include spoilers, so if you didn't watch the newest episode, go ahead and shut it off, because we're talking about basically all of Mandalorian, but mostly just the season finale. Okay, so one thing I've really been annoyed with when it comes to this season is how many helmets there are all the time. It's one thing to be having a helmet and talking to other people in one scene and not having to only see helmets just move slightly and hear dialogue through it. But it's another when everyone in that scene is like that. When you watch a scene and you have Din Djarin actually talking to other people that don't have helmets, you know that he's being understood, and you know that there's other things going on, and you know that the actors are actually there interacting. It's hard to get actual character development or interaction of understanding when it's all underneath a helmet and you see them move slightly. I wouldn't be surprised if Pedro Pascal wasn't even there for filming at all this season. He didn't show his face once, which I get. That's the Creed and but I didn't like how much of less we've seen of him. That makes sense? They totally could have got away with him not being there. This wasn't really mostly about him. I would say this season was more about Bo-Katan. That's completely fine as well. She is the Mandalorian that is supposed to take Mandalore, who is the rightful heir to the Mandalore kingdom or whatever the fuck. But I wanted to see Din Djarin. Din Djarin is what we watched it for. Din Djarin and Grogu. And they had a very small amount of screen time this season. This show used to be a Western, and it's not a Western anymore. It is a Disney fun good time with Bo-Katan featuring Din Djarin and Grogu. Basically like having Din Djarin step all over Boba Fett. That one time. The show entirely was diverted to Din Djarin. I'm probably saying his name wrong and I'm just realizing that. Din Djarin? We'll call him Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal was put aside in The Mandalorian for a Mandalorian, so it made sense. The Book of Boba Fett was supposed to be about the Book of Boba Fett. In Mandalorian, I am very interested in Bo-Katan's thing because I like how she is forming an alliance between the old ways and this is the way, new ways. Making all of the ways the way, proper way. So in that aspect, it's pretty interesting. That one episode where it's all the guy that was trying to get the Force out of Grogu, that was a very boring episode. But it was cool that they were establishing what's going on with Moff Gideon trying to get the Force. And we find out this whole time he was trying to make clones and be like the best version of himself that would make him Force sensitive. I don't know. It was very quick. His name here, because I can't pronounce it. I'll try. Giancarlo Esposito. Wow, that was pretty good. I love Gus Fring as much as the next guy in any role besides Gus Fring. And the dude knows how to monologue. Don't get me wrong. But Moff Gideon is Monologue City. The master of monologue himself. Every time he goes,
Din Djarin.
or
Bo-Katan Kryze. Looks like I have the Darksaber now.
like, oh, man. Since The Mandalorian doesn't have commercials, every time he starts the monologue, I'm out of there. So we saw Moff Gideon go. We saw Grogu go into the robot guy. That was Taika Waititi.
No, yes, no.
That was hilarious, and it was cool to give him something to do more than just him eating frogs all day. This is a dirty glass that I'm just noticing. That looks gross. What are you doing, you idiot? I just said it was dirty and I drank it. It was cool to see the Mandalorians flying around, especially when they went into one ship to get into another ship to go into Mandalore through the clouds. And without the camera breaking away, they show the evil ships come out of the clouds and start shooting at the one Mandalorian that's trying to divert their attention.
That was cool.
The multiple shields, when R5 was opening up for Mando to just whomp the fuck out of those Beskar stormtroopers was really, really tight. Super dope. Because if you watch the series in its entirety, you'll notice that most of the battles, Pedro Pascal's getting his ass kicked like crazy. Like, he does get his ass kicked. He prevails, but he gets his ass kicked a lot. Unless it's those one-off scenes where he's, like, walking into a bar, he's like,
I need to see this person.
I don't sound anything like him.
I need to see this person.
Like, sometimes there are those scenes, but most of the time when he's having, like, an altercation, he's getting whomped on, which makes it a little more realistic that a badass actually does get his ass kicked every now and again. But that shield scene was dope. Sure, he got a few licks against him, but he did hold his own, and it was just a badass
I'm the Mandalorian
scene. but it was really cool to see the Red Guards again. If you don't know who they are, I don't know much. I actually just Googled it. I did know that they were Senator Palpatine's bodyguards, who I don't think really had much screen time in the original trilogy, but I do remember them in Clone Wars for at least a scene or two. In any case, it was cool to see them actually fight and to see them actually defeated by Grogu and Pedro Pascal. I almost said Din Djarin, but I don't know which it is, Jin or Din. I'm not gonna look it up. Seeing Mando versus Midian Goff. What's his name? Moff Gideon. I am a fool. That wasn't a joke. I thought it was Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon versus Mando was really, really cool. And it was cool to see Bo-Katan versus him. I did want Bo-Katan to win, however, to be honest, because it would have been dope. But he crushed the fucking Darksaber, and I was pissed at first. But I realized it wasn't really about the Darksaber. It was really about the message behind the saber. You know, the whole old way was about whoever wields the Darksaber will wield the planet of Mandalore or some shit like that. She didn't need that Darksaber. She did a little bit earlier on in the series when Pedro Pascal gave her the Darksaber back, and then they're like,
Oh, now we'll follow you because you actually have it.
now that it's crushed, will people follow her? Yes, they will. She brought both factions of Mandalore back together again. It was stupid of her to come in with the small shield that's not even big enough to fucking cover my face, and she was trying to protect everyone else. Hey, she was trying to be a hero, but it didn't quite work. Or did it? Because maybe that made Grogu think of doing the force bubble thing that he did to help save them all. And I liked, usually in the series when Grogu uses the force, he goes, ah, and he gets so tired and he passes out. But he never passed out using the force in this, so that was cool. Grogu was adopted by Din or Jin or Pedro, whatever the fuck you want to call him. So now Pedro Pascal is Grogu's dad. So that's official. That's canon. It's pretty cool. It's weird to adopt a kid that's over 50. Now they're both working for the New Republic, and we're gonna see Grogu actually kick more ass in the future. And also that end scene had a weird scene of him walking. Like, he's walking fast. He's not doing this anymore. We can actually see him grow up. It's kind of scary. What's next for The Mandalorian? I'll tell you what's next. Ahsoka is the next show that's Star Wars related, but also really, really heavy with The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni's little baby. And I don't know about another season of Boba Fett, but when it comes to Mandalorian, Jon Favreau said season 4 is already written, so there'll absolutely be one. If you haven't watched my last Popcorn Poppin' live episode, then you might not know that they are making a Mandalorian movie, which is the culmination of the 3 shows. The 3 shows being Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and Mandalorian. So I'm very excited about that. Dave Filoni's going to be directing. That is so exciting. If you don't know who he is, he did Clone Wars and Rebels. He is the best part of Star Wars. I said it, George Lucas. Thank you, Jon Favreau, for bringing Dave Filoni in the mix to make the best characters of Star Wars that not all of Star Wars fans know about because they may have not have watched Clone Wars or Rebels, but now they'll know by watching Mandalorian, and they'll be very impressed with the characters so much that they might want to watch Clone Wars and Rebels. And I highly, highly recommend everyone to do it sometime before the Mandalorian movie comes out, because it's going to be a great culmination. I'm so excited. And yeah, sure, I'll watch season 4 of Mandalorian. Of course, it was super fun. This season was my least favorite because it wasn't like a Western anymore, but this episode was so fucking dope.
We shall see what is next, cause why?
This is the way.
Damn Skippy. Subscribe.